Hi, welcome to Digging for Truth, presented by Associates for Biblical Research. I'm your host, Henry Smith. Today, my guest is scientist Dr. Brian Thomas, and he's here to give us an update on his latest dinosaur fossil research and its scientific and worldview implications. Brian, welcome back to Digging for Truth. It's good to have you on again.
Hi, Henry. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, we're here today again. You've been on the show several times. We've talked about a variety of different subjects. The subject we're going to talk about today, we have covered some, but you've got some new information for us from your really here cutting edge research, and it has to do with dinosaurs and soft tissue discovered in them, something that we've explored numerous times. Tell us a little bit, give us a general introduction to that and what you found.
We found it actually years ago, but the process of getting science done includes the peer review process, and we went through several journals, and we just couldn't satisfy certain reviewers because we were reporting our results for independent analytical techniques that verified collagen protein remnants inside Edmontosaurus bone, and this is work that we did. I work for the Institute for Creation Research day job, but I also have a designation with the University of Liverpool, where I got my PhD just several years ago now. So anyway, I work with the Liverpool group and some other colleagues outside of that to pull together a bunch of different techniques on the same bone. And for the first time, we quantified, which is to say, we were able to tell how much collagen is still in the bone, the tiny samples that we were able to run. Anyway, so that's new, and we finally got it published in the journal Analytical Chemistry, and our paper came out January, I believe, of this year, 2025. And so, as you can imagine, this is the result of at least 5 years of effort to get this over the line, and we were just thrilled to see that it was published in a mainstream journal.
Yeah, when you try to when one wants to publish, especially in a secular journal, it's a long road of labor and patience. I would imagine this is what it sounds like. So tell us about this dinosaur a little bit, Brian, and then we'll talk about what collagen is, and you can kind of give a tutorial on that. So Edmontosaurus, is that a duck-billed dinosaur? Am I right about that, or am I mixing it up?
Yeah, that's right. It's a duckbill, not because it had a duck's bill, but because it had a mouth sort of in the shape of a duck's bill. And there's all kinds of varieties of duck-billed dinosaurs. This is one of them. And it's named after a certain city in Canada. Any guesses?
Oh, it sounds like Edmonton to me, the home of the Oilers for the hockey fans out there.
That's right, yeah. And so you do have Edmontosaurus specimens in and around the Edmonton, Canada area, as well as outside Edmonton. So this is from the Hell Creek Formation, which is vast. It covers most of, pretty much all of Montana, and then it goes by a different name when it covers the whole state of Wyoming, called the Lance Formation. But they were deposited at the same time, and they have it's the same type of sediment, same type of critters that got buried. And so we are convinced that this is a flood layer. I mean, if you're covering two states like that, and this is what's the third largest state in the Union. I mean, it's just, you drive for days and it's the same rock layer. And so anyway, that doesn't happen anywhere today. We have floods today, but local floods always fill river valleys and then they dump out into the sea. They don't deposit massive sediment beds, nor do they make fossils and carry creatures and bury them. Anyway, so Edmontosaurus might have been as much as 40 feet long from nose to tail. And so we've been doing this kind of research for a long time, a decade at least or more, yeah. And so we found that the best chance of finding a sample, a specimen that might have protein still in it, is to find a big bone, a big thick bone. So we found a piece of the sacrum, which is with a hip bone, and we got it accessioned into the repository at the University of Liverpool. and we've been off and running ever since.
Oh, that sounds cool. Now that Hell Creek Formation that you described, large, you're alluding to Noah's flood. We're going to develop that a little bit later in our show together. But how close to the surface was this particular discovery found? Was it deep? Was it shallow? Give us a little on that.
Yeah, the, don't know many details about the excavation because we didn't do the excavation.
Okay, okay,
So we do have specimens where we have all the excavation details, but
gotcha.
this one we know the location, and but we don't have photographs of the excavation on this one, unfortunately.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
anyway, but I will say that in general, it's you don't have to go deep. These
Yes.
bones are exposed near the surface, and if you've been there, they're a lot of times exposed on cliff sides, and as the cliff erodes back every year, the new bones begin to emerge, as it were, and so you climb up the hillside and dig around and start the excavation. And so some of these come from private ranchers who don't necessarily have professional digs, but a lot of them know what they're doing. But the thing is, if they can find a bone that's valuable, they can sell that, and so they want to do it right so that they have a piece that's valuable enough to sell, and that's how they supplement their ranch income. There's not a lot of grass out there, so they don't. You have to have a
Yeah,
lot of land to support just a few cows, and if they can supplement that with sales of dinosaur bone, they do. So they
that's
did, and we bought it.
fascinating. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, describe for us what collagen is. Give us a tutorial on that, and why that's significant that that's still there in an animal that allegedly died out 60, 70 million years ago.
Yeah, good. So collagen is probably the most abundant protein in a vertebrate, like even human body. So any animal with a backbone, you've got bones, connective tissue, um, skin, and even blood vessels are made of the same basic material as skin. These flattened cells, and so our bodies are held together by collagen, and it's a tough, ropey, long strand-like molecule made of protein, strings of amino acids, and they're designed and structured in such a way that three individually produced strands snap together, and it forms a cord, a three-stranded cord. And this cord, this collagen, is embedded in your skin. It's embedded within it makes up the fibrous and flexible structure of skin, connective tissue, and bone. So the matrix of bone. Bone is basically collagen plus what we call bioapatite, which is the mineral part of bone. So the thing is about this, it's a protein. And as such, it's made of, amino acids. But these amino acids are inherently susceptible to chemical reactions. So water reacts with proteins, oxygen reacts with proteins, and there's no place on Earth that you can keep water out or oxygen out. Water vapor gets everywhere, oxygen gets everywhere. There's no such thing as a hermetic rock, especially up near the surface where these types of fossils are excavated and discovered. So, and the thing is, this chemistry, Henry, happens relentlessly. And so what it does is it spells a shelf life for collagen. It can't last even 1 million years under ideal conditions. And I say that based on extensive uh, um, literature review, as well as we've backed up what other scientists have done experimentally with our own lab bench experiments to verify that collagen, how long can we get this to last? And we try these experiments, and I can talk about that for a whole episode, but basically we've verified what the secular scientists have been saying for decades based on their experiments. This material, as a protein, it does not last even 1 million years. Maybe if you kept it, the temperature of liquid nitrogen, you might approach 1 million years. It is a temperature dependent, but of course, there's nowhere on Earth that gets that cold.
Right,
So the hotter
right.
the hotter it gets, the faster the reaction happens, and you just assume a reasonable Earth surface temperature. And based on that, there's no way that this material can last even 1 million years, which does what? It really confronts the 70 million year age assignment that's been attached to our fossil
Yeah,
based on
yeah.
mainstream reckoning.
Well, let's explore that a bit more on the other side of this break coming up.
In a culture of intense Bible-denying skepticism, Associates for Biblical Research exists to strengthen followers of Jesus by affirming the authority of the Bible. Our archaeological fieldwork and original research form a strong foundation in upholding the reliability of the Scriptures. For students or anyone asking if they can really trust the Bible, please visit our website and partner with us by joining our prayer team or financially supporting this ministry. And thank you for standing with us.
Hi, welcome back to Digging for Truth. I'm here with Dr. Brian Thomas. We're talking about collagen protein remaining in dinosaur bones and the implications for that and the research that Brian has been doing. Now, Brian, you just explained a little bit about the very outer limits under the most ideal of circumstances. I like the liquid nitrogen reference. Obviously, dinosaur bones are not put under those kind of conditions. That really kind of goes against the prevailing paradigm, obviously. You guys have to draw on a lot of literature to make this argument, though. I assume it's out there, but a lot of people aren't pulling it together like you've been.
Well, yeah, for years people would say, no, I haven't heard about dinosaur protein. What are you talking about? And now people are saying they hear about it more. I think the 2015 Jurassic World movie, there's a character in the movie that mentions it. You know, so it's getting a little more popular. But and there's also some hypotheses that are supposedly explain how material this can last, you know, longer than it can last, magically long. And so because they have confidence that, oh, it can last indefinitely, they're starting to believe that, against the evidence, by the way, of chemistry. Because of that, now they're a little bit more outspoken. Anyway, but nowadays, so yeah, there's a little bit more knowledge about an acknowledgement of proteins in fossils, and it's in all kinds of fossils. But we curate a list and it's free, it's online. It's now, as of 2 weeks ago, up to 130 technical journal articles by mainstream scientists, and every one of them describes original biomaterial, whether it's whole tissue like blood vessels still intact, or whether it's biochemistry, which is just tissue remnants that have decayed away down to the scraps of biomolecules, which is what we found in our Edmontosaurus, which made it on the list. But 130, and what we've learned from this is you might find original young-looking tissue or biochemistry, organic material in fossils from any continent, and even from any rock layer. Even the lowermost layers that have fossils in them, including Cambrian, have original biomaterials in some of them. It's not super common, but it's the more we look for it, the more we find it. So it's becoming more and more common.
Yeah, and it's 130. I mean, for some people, maybe that doesn't sound like a lot, but we only have dug up like such a small percentage of the amount of dead animals that are available to be excavated and to be studied to begin with. So this seems extraordinary. One of the questions that we talked about me asking you was, is this discovery a fluke? Well, you just answered that question. We have a growing body of evidence. And one of the things that you emphasize in our conversations and previous episodes and in your work is that these materials are sensitive. Now, collagen, if I understand it right, is a little bit tougher than maybe some other proteins, but certainly not tough enough to last for this long.
Yeah, that's right. That's the rub, isn't it? So we have a measured decay rate and a measured shelf life, and you could even express it in terms of a half-life, but the half-life is different with every degree of temperature difference. Think about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now that's made of parchment, many of them, And what's that made of? Animal skin, like sheep skin. And that's been under, in the caves of Qumran for 2,000 years. So, and that's the same skin. It's the same. It's made of it's like 98% collagen parchment. And so collagen can last thousands of years, yes. But you notice the edges of those parchments, they're brown and they're falling apart. Why? Because of chemistry. Chemistry is relentless. So yeah,
Yeah.
the biomaterial is not, it cannot last indefinitely. This is sound science to back this up. And so it really confronts the age assignment. It really does. And it's interesting to see how those who are committed to long ages, what we call deep time, how they try to get around this evidence as well.
Yeah, and so more consistent with a shorter time scale and a different cosmic history. Let's explore that more in our next section. We got about a minute here. I want to go back to for a moment, Brian. It took 5 years to publish this. Did you perceive in your experience that the results that you guys were putting forth, and you don't mention the Bible or Noah's flood, anything, this is strictly scientific, that there was resistance to the conclusions? What was your perception and experience in all that?
It's hilarious because you get certain reviewers who would say, it cannot possibly be what you're saying it is. It can't be collagen. And now these are the reviewers who are familiar with the biochemistry. They've done the decay rate experiments, and they know that this is not, this cannot last this long. So no matter what evidence we present, yes, we have 4 different analytical techniques, really actually more than that, to verify that this is collagen. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them because they just know that it's that old, that it's tens of millions of years old, and they know that collagen can't last that long. Ergo, they conclude using this logic that it can't be. It can't be collagen. It can't be what we're looking at. So what do? It's sometimes you just can't get past those reviewers. And so you have to submit it to a different journal.
That's interesting. So it's either an acknowledgement that the proteins can't last that long, therefore you must be in error in claiming that they're there, or we've got to come up with a way to explain how they could last for these long periods of time, which in their chemistry expertise know instinctively is not possible. That's such a fascinating set of circumstances that flow out of that. Well, Brian, let's talk about that some more in our last segment right after this break.
Digging for Truth is produced and recorded in the studios of Lighthouse TV. Positively different.
Hi, welcome back to Digging for Truth. I'm here with my friend, Dr. Brian Thomas. We're talking about his latest research on dinosaur fossils. Okay, Brian, you did a great job of describing sort of the dilemma that this evidence sort of puts the secular reviewers into. It doesn't seem to fit into their paradigm. And we propose, maybe for audience members who are tuning in for the first time, we have a different understanding of the history of the world coming from the Bible. Describe that and how you think this evidence fits better into that.
Right. Well, at the beginning of our episode, we mentioned the flood. Okay. And it turns out that the Bible has lots of chronology in it, lots of time markers. And according to that chronology, we can basically build a timeline of world history that goes from Adam to Abraham. That comprises about the first 2,000 years of the world. From Abraham to Jesus, the second 2,000 years of world history, and then from Jesus to today, a third 2,000 years of world history. So it's, according to the Bible, it's just 6,000 or so years of world history. And then also, according to Scripture, this flood happened 1,656 years after creation. And if you put that on an AD BC scale, it would be about 4,500 years ago, roughly. So that's the timeline. So can collagen last 4,500 years? Yes. Yeah, according to the decay rate studies, it can last tens of thousands of years under ideal conditions, not a million. And so if these flood layers, really did deposit these dinosaurs and the sea creatures and the birds and everything that's mixed in those same layers as we find them, then it really fits the model. So that's a great way to put that, is what's the worldview here? And so there is a biblical based model of world history that starts with creation. There was a real flood about 4,500 years ago, and no wonder we see original biochemistry, not just a fluke, but we see it on every continent. So it's worldwide. Guess what the Bible says about the flood? It was worldwide.
Yeah, yeah.
And the tissue looks fresh. And guess what the Bible says about the flood? It happened 4,500 years ago. So no wonder it's fresh. So we see a good match between these data that I work with and the Bible's account of world history.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think when we're thinking about what we're talking about is the past, and obviously the Bible describes this cataclysmic event, which for most of the history of the church was understood the way that you and I would agree that it is, and the way that the biblical text, in my judgment, clearly shows us. Maybe we could address another thing that may be out there, an idea that people have that creationists don't do real science. Right? Okay, you've probably heard that. You've heard that a million times, probably. I've heard it. Talk about that a little bit, and your experience with hearing that, and the obvious that that's not the case.
It's a what do you call it? The no true Scotsman fallacy. Well, a true Scotsman, fill in the blank, and then they redefine what they mean. So a true scientist would never believe in creation. So they just define science to mean anything but creation. But that's silly. It's short-sighted. Yeah, we can ask research questions, and we can do experiments to try to find those answers and try to confirm or deny hypotheses. We do all that same science. In fact, the founders of modern science were creationists. Think of Michael Boyle and Newton and Kepler, and
Yeah.
I mean, these guys honored the Lord, and because of their efforts and because of their biblical worldview, we have modern science today. And anyway, and of course, real creation, real scientists publish in secular journals. Well, I've done a lot of that,
Yeah.
so I'm doing science. And I represent a lot of others who do. So that's an uninformed position.
Yeah, it's important for us, and we do this here at ABR too, to not only publish in through popular mechanisms like this show, which is largely for the church or lay people who are seeking truth, who are honestly looking at the evidence, but also on the other side, you're doing the secular scientific publication, so you're attacking it from both angles. I think that's a really important strategy for us to undertake as apologetic ministries, as scientific work, and that kind of thing. We're trying to do the same thing in archaeology.
Yeah, that's right. And it's, the industry standards are good. I mean, we agree with doing the blind peer review process, and we agree that we need to present conclusions that fit the actual results, and instead of conclusions that go off into wild speculations. And so now it's not a foolproof at all process, but it does help to have a double blind peer review process.
Yeah, and I would imagine, it must have been frustrating at points over the course of 5 years, but you probably came out with a better product than you would have had if it was a less tough review. And that's the way that, that's how I look at it too sometimes. You get put through the grinder, but you end up with a better argument in the end, and maybe that's the purpose of it. Well, Brian, we have a couple minutes left. You wanted to deal with interacting with the question, well, why does this matter? Right? Why does Noah's flood matter? Why does what we're discussing matter?
I do, because if we allow for this huge mindset change of switching from believing that these massive rock layers took millions of years, tens of millions, hundreds of millions to form, to then start to think, wait a minute, you don't need a lot of time. You just need a lot of water. The Bible gives us a lot of water. And then that does what? It slides the deposition of these rock layers that comprise most of our continents across the globe from some imaginary time way before Adam and Eve to 1656 years after Adam and Eve, and really after sin. And so there's lots of implications for moving the deposition of these rock layers up in our timeline. And one of them is it actually makes more sense logically of really the foundation for the gospel, which is what Jesus died. He suffered our death penalty to do. Why? Because death is the penalty for sin, and it's our sin that we commit that earn for us the death penalty. For the wages of sin is death. And so if you have creatures dying for billions of years before sin ever entered, then the gospel makes less sense. So it restores the sensibility of the gospel. For one, that's one consequence of our research and
Yes.
building a worldview on that.
Yeah, the restoration of creation. The world was subjected to futility, Romans 8, not created in futility, and that's
Amen.
a very important part of it, of the entire worldview scope. And I think you've hit that right on the head. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your expertise. I really appreciate the kind of hard work that you do, the depth of it, and the dedication to not only being an excellent scientist, but to being a faithful follower of Jesus and theologian. Grateful for you, appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and thanks again for having me on.
Great. Friends, thank you for watching Digging for Truth. We'll hope you consider that the flood is a picture of the judgment to come, and the way to escape is through the door. In the case of that time, it was through the door of the ark. In this case, Jesus is the door. And in the case of the ark, it was only 8 people that were saved, but in the time when Jesus returns, it'll be millions upon millions of people who are delivered from sin and saved into glory in the new heavens and new earth. We hope you embrace this truth today. Thank you for watching Digging for Truth.